Immigration, certainly one of the biggest issues dominating the headlines out of Washington for the last several weeks. Our Washington reporter Samantha-Jo Roth caught up with Florida Senator Marco Rubio to talk about that and more.
Is the Republican Party too divided to be able to come up with a workable plan?
Well, the country is divided on it. It's a tough issue. On the one hand, we're a sovereign country. We deserve to have borders and protect them. On the other hand, we have a constitution that gives everyone due process, including someone who entered the country unlawfully. We're also a country with a Judeo-Christian value of compassion for our fellow man and people that are suffering. And we're all immigrants. We have a legacy of immigration. So no other country faces those factors. The fundamental problem we face right now is that in Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, criminal gangs are threatening people's lives, killing people, and so people leave. And they come here with children because we have a policy that basically says if you arrive unlawfully with a child, we're going to release you until your hearing, and many people never show up for hearing. That's what we need to confront. The best thing we could do is help defeat these gangs in Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala so people don't have to come. But we also have to end policies that encourage people to come and come with their children. And so we got to do both. And hopefully that's where we can get to on this particular issue.
I know you've been asking President Trump to reinstate a Commerce Department ban from earlier this year on ZTE. Have you had discussions with the president or administration officials, and can you convince them?
Well, we have, and so we have a difference here. The administration views this as an enforcement action because ZTE, a Chinese telephone company, violated sanctions on Iran and North Korea twice, and they want to punish them for that. And that's all they want to do. And I agree, their punishments are strong if this was just about that. But ZTE and an even bigger company named Huawei pose a national security danger to the United States. Their equipment, if it's embedded into our networks, give the Chinese access to our data. They already have Chinese access to our data around the world because that equipment, those components, routers and the like, can be found all over the world. So when American data, whether you're buying something or saying something, touches another telecom in another country, we're already vulnerable. Those countries shouldn't be operating here. Frankly, we shouldn't be letting them stay in business. They're a direct threat to America, and they cheat and steal their way into the position they're in right now.
Senator, I know you're a very effective legislative partner with Senator Bill Nelson. You've said that you won't campaign against him. He's in a pretty tight race with the governor there. Can we expect to see you on the stump for Scott?
Yeah, so what I've said is I'll support Governor Scott. I'm a Republican. I want us to have a majority. I want more people that vote like me in the United States Senate. I'm not going to attack Bill Nelson. I work well with him. Yeah, it's the same in my race. He didn't attack me, but he campaigned for my opponent. So it's one of those tough things in life. You know, someone, you work well with them. We disagree on issues, but we are able to work together on the things we agree on. And if more people up here did that, we'd get more done. But I'm a Republican, and I do want us to have a majority in the Senate. And so I'll campaign for Governor Scott. I don't need to attack Bill Nelson to do that.
And on a personal note, can you describe what you first felt, what you first thought when you heard the sounds and saw the images from the border detention centers of the children, and when you were
I hate it. I mean, as a parent, as an American, as someone who, I just hate it. I don't like the fact that kids are separated from their parents, and that's why I believe that we should figure out a way to keep them together. I think most Americans agree with that. The question is, how do you keep them together? Do you keep them together by releasing everyone, or do you keep them together by detaining the parents and allowing the children to stay with them? The problem with releasing everyone is when you release someone who unlawfully entered the country, and in a very high percentage of cases, 2 years later, they never show up for the hearing. So people know that, and as a result, people are coming, and they come with kids knowing they'll be released if they have kids. They won't be released if they won't, and that creates an incentive to bring more kids. And that's why, ultimately, while it's not perfect, I think the best solution is to be able to hold families together in the safest, most humane conditions possible while they await their hearings.
And I just want to ask you one last question. It sounds like HHS is giving you guys more information about that detention center in Florida. About 8 of the 70 kids have not been able to have their parents contacted because they could have already been deported. Do you think bringing these families together is going to be an ongoing issue for you?
It's going to be. We know who the kids are. We know who the parents are. It's not going to be perfect. We don't have facilities to house families together. We've got to create those. There will be people that were already deported because the timing didn't add up. So no one should pretend this is going to be perfect. But I do think we have an obligation to do the best we can to reunite these families. And like I said, most of these kids are being placed, even as we speak, within 20, 25 days. Most of the kids that come here are placed with other family members, sometimes with a parent who's already in the country. So every case is different. But it's not going to be perfect. Anytime you're dealing with human beings in vulnerable circumstances, you have a tough issue. Our job is to enforce our law, but also to treat people with compassion and humanity if we're holding them pending their hearing, and to try to expedite those hearings so they're not waiting and languishing for years, waiting for a judge.
When we come back, did Governor Rick Scott defraud